Okay, these are real. All right. I'll explain to you where this comes from. So all the main characters, like people that are powerful in leadership or Hollywood actors these people have been alive for a very long time. These beings have a very long life and they have to hide themselves amongst us because, well, they don't want to make it obvious, but they do consume human flesh and they do drink human blood. We have something in us that rejuvenates them. This is why these pizza parties, children carry that more than adults, right? That's why it's always children. Children are still growing, so they carry more of what it is that rejuvenates these people. So I just watched this video with Hillary Clinton talking about aliens or whatever. She's Julianne Moore. That's who is playing her part. Donald Trump is John Wayne. There's some people that everyone knows, like Brad Pitt and Benicio del Toro. It's almost like not even trying to hide it. DiCaprio and Kurt Russell, same guy. There's even a movie, so Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's DiCaprio and Kurt Russell are in the same room, but they're in a trailer, like they're alone, which is like sus, because I already know that it's the same person. The only other person in there would probably be Tarantino, who's filming it, but you can tell that they're not actually in the same room together. Like, they kind of up a little bit. Many examples of this. I could tell you who all of them are. I have a very good eye for that. But yeah, so these beings, and not all of them do it, I don't think. Like, just like when you watch in the movies, like some vampires are hell-bent on just having human blood, and other ones are trying to get away from it. So they do have both spectrums of that. And a lot of them are reptiles, but not all of them are just reptiles. Like, there's other beings that do this same thing. Like, they're affected the same way by it. There's this movie called Ravenous, and it is on Disney, of all places. How convenient. They depict what happens when you consume too much human meat or too much human blood, and they kind of go... It causes rage, but it also does age regress them at the same time. So yeah, I want you to bring some people to me that you want me to tell you who they are, like as actors, and I will tell you who they are. Al Pacino and Adam Sandler is another big one that I wanted to mention that no one notices. I know all of them, okay? Get back to me.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. The following testimonies are quite graphic and horrifying, so I am kindly asking you to brace yourself and pray before watching. The testimonies we're diving into today are gut-wrenching, but they are a reality we can no longer ignore. We are talking about human monsters, individuals who prey on babies and small children, people who truly find gratification in the suffering of other human beings. Whether we call them vampires, Hollywood elites, or even reptilians, the labels matter less than the actions. These people run sections of our world. They blend in, they hold positions of influence, and they continue to harm the most defenseless among us. The depravity behind satanic ritual abuse is a darkness that thrives in the shadows, and it's time we brought it into the light.
A common ritual that involves murder and torture and sexual assault in the organized cults, including the intergenerational interconnected KKK, Nazi, and Satanic cults, among others, that tortured and trafficked me from baby onward, is rebirthing, where, as a child, we are forced into the open body, the cut open body, often the chest, the rib cages split open, and the lower part of the body, and we are forced inside of someone who was murdered, and then the other mother will be there and pretending to give birth to us. So we are bloody, we are covered with parts of the person who was murdered in front of our eyes. And then the other mother is telling us how she birthed us and how we belong to her and we belong to the cult and she is our mother and how we are alive because of her. We just saw someone be murdered. And while that person is murdered, at least in my experience, we are forced to as much as we can, imagine ourselves as that person, feeling their pain, and for each cut that the cult makes of the person who was murdered, who is usually drugged and fastened down, and we are fastened down, and we are directly opposite them, and watching them as they are slowly, torturously being murdered. For each cut that the cult makes on that person, there is pain created in us, and they pretend to be cutting us at the same time and saying, do you feel that? Do you feel it, as they are doing it to the person that they are murdering? And it is so traumatic. And when we are rebirthed by the other mother, there has been so much trauma. And so then when she holds us to her and hugs us and rocks us and wipes away the blood and the pulp and everything else, and tells us that she loves us and she will protect us, of course we are bonding to her. We are desperate for love and safety and to be taken out of such horrific torture. And it is a way to bond us to the cult and bond us to the other mother and create loyalty, because they tell us that we will be killed, like the person that we just saw be murdered, if we are not loyal to the cult, if we are not obedient, if we do not obey all the rules. And it is a form of torture and mind control for us, and murder for the person who was murdered. And it is horrific. And the only way to survive this kind of organized torture is to split off parts of our minds and our souls with a dissociative identity to keep going on. So we survivors have so much strength, and we have gone through things that no one should ever have to go through.
So, what can we do to help and save the children? First, we pray. We lift up the children and the most vulnerable in our thoughts and spirits. Second, you have to share these videos. We need to raise an army of awareness to defend the innocent. By shedding light on these pedophiles and their networks, we become the shield for those who have none. Please, my friends, stay vigilant, stay informed, and above all, stay safe. We are all in this together.
America is the parasite. Its entire system was designed to consume, to devour, to inflate itself through extraction. But now you've extracted everything. Your resources, your allies, your morals, your meaning.
This was my father. From the time I was born, I was part of a family where child sexual abuse and trafficking and ritual abuse occurred. A typical experience for me would be being woken up, taken out of my bed and pulled down to the van where my father would roughly throw me in. There I would be taken to the group that would perform the abuse and the satanic ritual abuse. So this is a group well known across the world, Freemasons. They would, I was trafficked to them as well, and sometimes as a group and sometimes as individuals. And these were men who my father got to know very well over time, but he would take me in to their meeting, and then we would go into the antechamber, and there would be other children, and we would be lined up. There would be a nurse in one part of that chamber and a doctor would be alongside. The nurse would check us and the doctor would administer an injection. This was some form of barbiturate. I don't know what it was, but it made us children malleable and less anxious. Then we would be taken into the main chamber, and there we would be laid out in a ritualistic format, like a compass with points on it, and then the chanting would begin. So that was a typical example for me. That was a very common occurrence once a month at the Freemasons, and then other times throughout the year at specific events they would hold. So that would be more likely to be rural or out in the country. So a typical ritualistic event from when I was younger, under 10, was to have animals in there that were killed. So one example was there was a little lamb in there that had its throat cut, and we were required to not just put our hands into the blood and do some sort of symbolic sign onto others, so onto other children that they would then do onto me, but we were also required to drink it. During those ritualistic experiences and sessions, there were children that would be discussed as needing to be sacrificed. Now, for a lot of years, I didn't remember that particular experience, but I do now because my name was mentioned. And for me, I was beyond terrified, because what that would mean is if they were going to sacrifice me, it wasn't going to be done in a simple way. I would be knifed, dissected, and then passed around. So I think for me, what happened was my father was talking to the Grand Master, who was the lead in all of this, the top Freemason there. And I think I was too old. I remember hearing the words, "She's too old." And so they got a boy who was a little bit younger than me, and he was sacrificed instead. And then I think that was all I could remember, but I'll never forget. It was nearly me. Okay, so where I experienced all of this was Freemasons have lodges throughout the world, but in our country, and they're quite recognizable because the windows are all covered up, and it's almost like secrets are being held. And yes, they definitely are being held, but the ritualistic abuse would take place within those walls. Equally, when there was a celebration, so I'm thinking of May Day, for instance, there would be a big gathering from across New Zealand, and there would be many, many, many people there, and loads of children would be brought in, including me. And I remember a big long driveway. It was out in West Auckland, and it was in the country, and it was a massive big long driveway, and at the end were cop cars. And in those days back in New Zealand, it was black and white paddy wagons, so black and white cars were our New Zealand police. Now, whether or not they were involved or whether they were guarding the property, they were complicit in the satanic ritual abuse. Remember, we were heavily drugged and sedated. It was part of the ritual, actually, to drug children. I believe it wasn't just the drugging. I believe there was mind control. And when I say that, I'm talking about the chanting that would occur. So there was a lot of chanting which tended to be hypnotic and also auto-suggestible. So I think there was a lot of that as well. And I know there was incredible dissociation for me personally during those events, because I would wake sometime later back in my bed and know things had happened but couldn't quite remember what they were. So it's taken decades to understand the control they had through mind control, but also through drugs and also fear. You know, children are vulnerable. They are such easy pickings for these evil people. It was one night I tried to save a little boy. He was crying and he was really distraught, and I knew he was calling attention to himself and that they would not hesitate to sacrifice him. So I tried to talk to him and tried to calm him down and told him a nursery rhyme or a song. I can't quite remember which. But as a result of that, my punishment, when I got home, our dog, the dog's head was cut off, and I had to sleep on the pillow with the dog's head. So that ensured I never did anything again. I think the worst experience was one I've spoken to, which was that younger child. Instead of me being sacrificed, he was. And I remember it. I'll never forget it, because yes, my life was saved, but his was taken. So that's something that stays with you. That doesn't go away easily. Yeah, look, beautiful people watching. You know, if you're watching this, you're interested and you possibly already believe what you've been hearing. The reality is the silence and the cover-up and the absolute refusal of good people to accept that this evil exists means one thing and one thing only, and that is that it will continue to. So please, you've got great people in this project who are speaking out, and we just want to stop this. So that's my message. Thank you so much for watching.
We would like to thank our channel members for continuously supporting our channel. We are praying for each and every one of you. Thank you.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, and I'll see you in our next video.